Joining me, Miller. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and a Fox News contributor. Jen Rubin is a blogger for the Washington Post and a former attorney, recovering attorney, as we like to say. And Kirsten Powers is a columnist for the Daily Beast and a Fox News contributor. James Rosen, he's got criminal and flight risk written all over him. And the point I make in raising a joke about what is a serious subject is, this is a farce. This FBI affidavit in support of getting James's records and Fox News's records without any notice to the other side so they could go in and object. It was farcical. They had to say it so they could do it without any other lawyer coming in. And the question is whether that is a designed campaign as part of a larger effort to silence the media that are critical of this administration. Judy?
Well, I think there's a broader question, Megan, than the excellent ones you've already asked, which is the government making a very new argument here by attempting to criminalize reporting itself? I mean, in the search warrant, the government said, we believe that Mr. Rosen, in soliciting information from his alleged source, was actually conspiring with him to violate the Espionage Act of 1917. That's an extraordinary claim. And I don't know many First Amendment judges or people who've studied this who think that they've ever heard this before. So this is an extraordinary and radical interpretation of law.
And they used it to get such widespread access. In the AP case, we saw them going, and there's no question that they have the right to investigate leaks of national security information, but the wide net they cast in the AP case, getting the personal cell phone records of the reporters involved, Jen, and now we find out that Rosen's parents out in Staten Island, they had to have their records. Mr. and Mrs. Rosen? Well, I mean, isn't it a little, it's lunacy, is it not?
It really is. And Judy is absolutely right. I don't think she's a lawyer, but she should be one because she's right on the money. I talked the other day to Floyd Abrams, probably the most prominent lawyer in America on First Amendment issues, and he called this accessory theory just dangerous, unprecedented. He believes that this would be a considerable impediment for the media. It's never been tried before. None of this has ever been tried before by any other administration, not the Nixon administration, not the Bush administration. The reason why we have certain guidelines within DOJ is so that they will narrow, they will come to the news organization involved, they will discuss, first of all, voluntarily the records. No one ever asked James if he'd turn over any records. He might not have, but they never asked. And so they go in, they churn out a new legal theory, accessory to leaking. They do this wide dragnet, and of course it's chilling to the media. Of course it is casting a spell, not only on the media, but of course their sources. If the sources understand that every time they pick up a phone to talk to a journalist, their phone number is going to be traced or the conversation is going to be intercepted in some fashion, who's going to ever come to the media?
Yeah, and I do want to say that apparently we don't have the last four digits of a couple of the lines that look like the Fox News lines and look like Mr. and Mrs. Rosen's lines out on Staten Island. But we've got the prefix, we've got the first, the area code and the prefix and all the writings on the wall. So we'll see for sure. But this is the position you're in, Kirsten, when they don't give you any notice and you're getting all your information from third parties and your Fox News and you're learning that your reporter had all of his records searched from a report in the Washington Post.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, they have been contemptuous from the get-go of the idea of dissent in a free media, and any of us who are at Fox know that quite well because they came right out of the gate in their first year and went into a campaign of delegitimize us, and and that was their word, that not legitimate, which is very chilling language to come from an administration. So I don't, if that's where they start, that they actually can't handle even one media outlet that has any dissent or criticism, this really shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. And also, if you look at the broader way that they've approached things, they've created all sorts of legal theories to justify things that they've done, whether it's assassinating an American citizen. They wouldn't even answer a question of whether the president could do that on American soil until there was a filibuster that basically forced them into answering it. They're completely unaccountable, and it is meant to chill dissent. It is meant to make people to be afraid. That is the whole point of what happened to the AP. That is the whole point of what happened to James Rosen, is to tell whistleblowers, if you're going to talk to a reporter, we're watching you. To tell reporters, we're watching you, and we may even prosecute you.
You better shut up, and you better shut up. And I want to ask you this because it was one thing in the media when it was just Fox News. You know, President Obama continually calling out Fox News and certain right-wing radio talk show hosts and so on. And then he tried to exclude us from certain round-robin interviews that they would give. And at that point, the press corps did object and said, you can't do that. You can't exclude one news organization. But it was one thing when it was just Fox. But now it's not just Fox. Now we've seen CBS News, Cheryl Atkinson get cracked down on and criticized, and we've seen the AP get its record searched. And they seem to be paying a little more attention, Judy.
Well, they do. And I think in defense of the administration, and this is a point that isn't made very often, you know, this president and his people do have an obligation to protect national security. We're not living in a post-Watergate world. We're living in a post-9/11 world.
Yeah.
And yes, the government is going to take measures to crack down on leakers when information involving sources is compromised. But the issue was the search warrant and the subpoena issues here commensurate with the leak?
Were they narrowly tailored as they're supposed to be? Because I was at the inauguration of Barack Obama, Jen, when he stood up there and said, we don't have to sacrifice our liberties, our ideals in protection of national security. Now, that was a reference to his predecessor, George Bush. But now that he's at the helm, you know, the First Amendment and the freedom of the press, that seems to be something that is not as important to him when it comes to national security. There is a balance that can be struck. Are they striking the right one?
Well, we have neither, actually. We've had the Boston bombing. He looks the other way when Bashar al-Assad uses chemical weapons. So he really isn't doing a very good job on national security, and he's also trampling on civil liberties. So if there's some trade there, and I'm not sure there needs to be one, he's not keeping his end of the bargain. And frankly, his entire attitude that he doesn't know about this is all the Justice Department, he has nothing to do. This is part of his new game, which is me in charge of the government, me, President of the United States, and that's just outrageous. If he's President of the United States, he has every right and every ability to tell the Justice Department to return to the procedure that every administration has followed up until now. He hasn't done this. Instead, he hides behind Jay Carney, or he hides behind some other spokesperson, and the act is getting tired. I think this is also contributing to the real frustration of the press, is the non-answers, the changing answers, disclaiming responsibility for anything and everything.
Yeah.
And I think people have had it.
Do we get to know, Kirsten, at some point does somebody go to Eric Holder or Tracy Schmaler, his spokesperson, and say, how many of us have you listened to? How many of us have had our phone records subpoenaed without our knowledge?
Well, I mean, Eric Holder was asked how many subpoenas he had signed off on, and he said he didn't know. So that would suggest that they exist at least, and it's a number I guess is too hard for him to keep track of. But I just wanted to say that even this idea that the administration pursues leakers is actually not entirely accurate. What they pursue is whistleblowers. They pursue people who are calling things out, calling the government out for doing things that they don't want to be called out.
Yeah.
But when information is leaked that benefits the president, those people are not pursued. I mean, is there a leak investigation into who leaked the information about the Osama bin Laden raid? I'm not aware of that. You know, so we have to keep it clear about what they're focusing on.
The perspective. I'm going to start to send emails to myself from myself that CC Eric Holder on my email account, just so we can keep the record straight. Ladies, thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, the founder of True the Vote and her nightmare situation with the IRS.